Are you ready to game 45 minutes at a time? Is your body ready? The Tech Hour is. Welcome to the Tech Hour, where we discuss the wild and wacky world of tech. My name's Amir, and joining me is Kiwi and Nathan. Let's just start with Disney.
Why not?
Why not? Because I like Disney, and they broke my heart.
Yeah. Cool, because you also liked LucasArts then.
Old LucasArts.
Old LucasArts.
Grim Fandango LucasArts.
So really nothing was lost.
They
actually tell the people
fired the
what
people
happened.
that made the Force
Let's
Unleashed.
tell the people what happened first. We're getting far too far into this,
yeah.
so give them a brief.
Basically, George Lucas sold Lucasfilm and LucasArts and all Lucas properties.
Everything.
Okay, to Disney.
$4 billion.
Cashed out.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Good for him. And they shut down LucasArts, which is their gaming branch.
Good for Disney.
Good for Disney, because they don't got to waste money on a team that is bad.
Really hasn't done anything in many, many years.
And they didn't just like absorb them into Buena Vista, which is Disney's gaming branch. They let most of them go.
Yeah.
And they're gonna kind of sell off whatever is left to third-party developers if they want to complete it.
They're going to license it out. That's
License
what the
it
real
out.
money is.
And
Yes.
which could be actually better for gamers than leaving like trying to make LucasArts work. I think we could see some pretty cool, like Battlefront 3 maybe, that's actually worth playing.
Yep.
Maybe.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm not.
More Jedi. I mean, the old like the Jedi Knight games
Yeah,
were
Jedi
awesome.
Academy.
Jedi
Yes,
Academy,
those
Jedi
were
Knight
good.
2,
Yep.
those were all great. If we could see more games like that
Done by
developed
Raven, though. Funny thing.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So again, that's the model. License it out to a company that knows
Right.
what they're doing. You get a great Star Wars game. Everyone
I
has
mean,
it.
there's no love lost with The Force Unleashed and Force Unleashed 2 because they were both awful games. But
right, exactly.
one game that was Star Wars 1313, which is the bounty hunter game.
Yeah.
Shudder.
Yeah. God knows what's going to happen to that.
See, I feel like after The Force Unleashed, it was really just I wasn't
It's
excited
lost
about
faith.
anything coming out of LucasArts. So I'm more excited to see what's going to happen to the properties now that Disney hopefully will make smart choices about getting good dev teams involved. I'm thinking maybe Gearbox might get a shot. What are they doing these days?
I don't even
Ruining franchises. Okay.
They did
Duke Nukem, Aliens.
yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah.
also Borderlands.
Okay, one success. It's-
Borderlands
very,
2.
very, very big success.
Borderlands and Borderlands 2 are great games.
Does it count as two successes?
Yes.
I think so. I mean,
Time
Borderlands 2.
difference.
Borderlands 2 is not as good as Borderlands, but it's still a success. I think they set out to do what they set out to do. They succeeded in doing it masterfully. I don't know if what they set out to do is exactly what all the fans wanted them to do,
Right.
but that's a discussion for another time. I'm excited about it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just move on.
No, you got nothing else. No other thoughts on this?
No, I'm kind of happy. I mean, I'm preparing for worst case scenario though. 'Cause
Which
I think
is?
that's what's going to happen. Cash grab. That's what you do when
Yeah.
you license things out. You
Yeah.
license it out to like most likely a contractor. They bid for it, and they usually take the lowest bid, and then the shittiest work gets done.
So you're saying like EA with
Bad games.
I don't know.
So I don't
What-
know.
who
Well,
even what is EA's in-house teams these days?
They have Dice. They have
Dice is busy
Montreal,
cashing out on the Battlefield
Battlefield
franchise. I don't know.
series, you know. I
We'll
don't
see.
know.
I'm thinking EA will try to get some of these properties because they've done some Star Wars-y stuff before, right? I think. Well, they do the Old Republic.
I
Oh,
see
do
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's totally EA.
Yeah.
So that would be the smart thing, I think, for everyone involved. I don't think that's the best thing for gamers.
I see them picking up Lego Star Wars. If there's anything
Oh,
to
yeah.
pick
Oh,
up,
oh,
that's
yeah,
the-
of course.
or Lego
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. Those
Yeah.
are the big money makers
Oh,
currently.
definitely.
And
But
since,
wouldn't Buena Vista want to keep those, or at least develop those in house? No.
Apparently,
Buena
they have
Vista.
not made
Buena
any-
Vista's Disney's gaming branch.
I know, but why?
Because they.
I guess they
like,
could, but I don't
they-
see why
Disney
they.
owns and like.
Maybe. I mean, that could
does
be.
a lot of Indiana Jones and
If they want to sort of, integrate everything the way LucasArts was doing before, where, you release a whole, because, they're making the new movies, if they want to release a whole series of things. The other thing is that they could sell the rights to all the original series prequel stuff, and then just have Buena Vista do stuff that ties in with the new movies. I think that might be what happens, because I think Disney is going to be more concerned about their, future properties, which is why they sold off LucasArts or got rid of LucasArts. And so if they sell off those existing IPs, they're probably going to sell it to like EA. That would be my guess. But this is all rampant, pointless speculation. So
Alright, so we should move on to,
yes,
Fair enough.
to actual
to
hard
actual
tech.
hardware, to actual stuff that we care about.
Yes, something that I think Kiwi knows probably most about.
Yeah, let's have Kiwi give the brief on
The 22 nanometer.
next gen Atom. Yeah.
All right, next gen Atom. Excellent. Right now, they're currently at Clover trial. That's what they're calling the Atom as it is right now. It's a 32 nanometer. It can use DDR2 memory. It's 1 to 2 cores. Some of them have hyper-threading, some of them do not. The power efficiency is excellent. Its performance is a little when it comes to doing heavy-duty things, but its power is ridiculously low,
Yes.
which is nice.
And that's going to be most frequently, like consumers are going to see this most in that Z20, what is that, 2760, I think?
Yes, the Z
That's
series, there's a 2670, there's a 2750, there's a whole
Right.
slew of ridiculous numbers that no one ever really knows.
But that's what you're seeing if you get like an Asus Vivo tab or something
Yep.
like that. That's the chip you have right now, is that Clover
That is the
Trail
chip
Atom.
you have
Exactly.
right now currently. Its graphics is a little underwhelming, but the theory is you don't need much graphics for that stuff. The big thing with the new release Bay trial is they're going to be integrating Intel's HD graphics into it. That's going to be a major jump in performance, and they're also going to be shrinking the die size down to 22 nanometers, which is excellent.
Better for power.
Better for power. They're hoping to get the SoC with the chip all the way down to 3 to 4 watts.
Which is, I think right now they're at
amazing.
like, what, I want to say 15 watts?
No,
maybe?
no,
Lower
like
than
what's
the 10
really,
watts?
they're actually around 5.
Really?
They're around
On the
5 or
current
6
Clover-
on the
okay.
current Clover trial, which is actually really nice.
That's really good, yeah.
But with bad power use, considering what the new one's going to be, they're hoping 3 and they're hoping 60% performance boost.
And that's, since it's system on chip, that means that's your RAM too.
Yep.
That's like things like maybe Wi-Fi antennas,
Yep.
all that stuff is gonna be
Everything's
included in that
Yes.
3 watt.
Yep, the whole SoC they're calling Valley View.
Yeah.
Low power DDR3 is getting introduced.
great.
More USB 3 is getting introduced.
Yeah.
Pretty ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. And just to note, so on the graphics, if anybody remembers the old GMA graphics that you used to get if you bought like an Intel motherboard and that was your onboard graphics, it was like a GMA 3000 or something.
Yep.
The kind of difference is going to be like from that to the HD 4, more than HD 4000, right?
Yeah.
Or it's an HD 4600 cut in half is what you're
Yes,
saying, right?
pretty much. That's what all the rumors going around is. Everyone who's talking with AMD, people like at NNTech, Liam Lee, he basically gets to talk with a lot of those people, and he's finding out that it's a 4600, basically chopped in half, with ridiculously low power, and that alone will have 1080p hardware decode and encode acceleration at 60 frames per
Great.
second.
That's really good.
Higher
That's really
resolution.
important for that.
Yeah.
That's something that Atom struggles with now.
Yep.
That people want to have on a tablet.
Yep.
It's a feature that's like you can point to and say that's what it's going to do.
That has it.
Exactly, yeah.
1440p playback, which
Yeah.
is nice. Yeah, that's some really exciting stuff coming up. And this will all, or should be out Q4 of this year.
Yeah.
So clearly, I mean, that's going to be going into specifically Windows tablets.
Yeah.
Windows 8 tablets.
Windows 8 tablets.
Yes.
Isn't the future ARM though for tablets? I mean, everyone else is on ARM.
Windows sure doesn't want it to
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's.
I
I
mean-
mean, let's. Okay, so
There's two conversations.
It's very complex what's going on in the tablet space, and I think Intel is a little late to the game. They're coming on strong though. Hopefully, what they come out with, hopefully this stuff in Q4 is going to be equivalent to like the Tegras and the ARM, all those other ARM chips that are out there.
Because the reason why ARM is getting pushed heavily into the tablet market is because its power consumption is ridiculously low.
Very
and it's
nice.
just good enough to run Windows RT and actually run it pretty well for a lot of day-to-day things.
Or Android or
Android
iOS.
stuff. So it's actually really nicely fit into that. And Intel's only a little late because they've refused to actually shrink the die process on the Atom. It's launched at 45 nanometer and it stayed at, there's currently 45 nanometer Atom chips out now, except for the new ones that are at 32. They still use a really old out of order execution technology,
Yeah.
which is just awful.
They've sort of there was this huge push when netbooks came out to develop Atom chips because people wanted x86 in a small low power form
Right.
factor. But then Intel sort of and this actually AMD kind of did the same thing because they both developed chips and then they both sort of just set them aside and they've sort of
delivered,
developed them.
yeah.
But they delivered what they needed
Bobcats.
at the time.
Yeah.
They at the time what you needed was supplied by those chips because it was a sub notebook,
Yeah.
which were really big in Asia. Not so big here, but they made their money and then they were kind of done with it because they didn't see the technology.
And they deliver what they promise of 8 to 10 hours of battery life.
Yeah,
And
which is huge.
Which is amazing. You
Yeah.
can surf the web, you can do super light duty office work, a couple of
90% of users,
Yeah.
everyday
at
activities.
like 2.5 pounds.
Yeah. Which
What do you
I don't
mean?
know why that wasn't bigger in the U.S. It was really
Keyboard.
big in
It came down to
that's
keyboard size.
yeah.
Yeah.
Americans have giant hands and can't
Yes.
deal with it. I guess maybe that's what it is.
Well, have you tried typing long term?
No, I have. I've used netbooks. I've long considered buying a netbook, but I don't have one.
You get used
And
to it in
so-
20 minutes. If you sit down and that's your new computer.
But Americans want things
Yeah,
big,
I know.
which is
I-
why apparently tablets are
Burger King
okay
can
now.
give it to me my way, so the computer company can give me the keyboard
Right.
my way too.
Well, so that whole thing is happening. You have Microsoft basically has their hands in both pots right now because they're thinking whichever way becomes the wave of the because one of them is going to win. One of them is going to win out. x86 has the legacy stuff because when you have an Atom chip, you can run just about anything that was ever written for Windows.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about compatibility.
Yep.
Windows RT has this huge problem because not only is it ARM, you can't just go out there and run Android apps.
Yep.
You can't just run iOS apps.
Yep.
So the
Yep.
existing
Yep.
ARM space is
Well,
completely irrelevant to
I mean,
Windows
on
RT.
Android you can.
On Android, and what do you mean? On Android you can run.
On Android you can run any app regardless.
I'm saying on Windows
Underlying
RT.
architecture.
I'm saying on Windows RT you can't just. If you have a Windows RT tablet, you can't just go out and get Android apps and run them.
Right, but I mean, you realistically also can't do that with x86.
You
can
can.
emulate them.
You can emulate,
well,
but you can
can't
emulate.
I'm not saying you can do Android apps, but I'm saying if you have x86, you have a huge library of existing software. Anything that you ever put on your desktop, you can put on an x86 machine.
Right, and
The library for software for Windows RT is much smaller, and that's why you have people returning them. That's why you have sales.
but it's
are
growing.
It is growing.
It's growing.
And so what Windows is banking on is that no matter what happens in the hardware space, they'll have some sort of solution, which is why they did Windows 8 when they did. And which is why Windows 8 seems like such a messy launch and so weird that they have the desktop on RT, all this other stuff. So that's why it is the way it is. And I think it's going to work out for them. In the long run, Windows 8 is going to be one of the major tablet OSs.
Microsoft, we already know they're going to double down on that. They're probably going to remove the desktop with Windows 9 or whatever it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Most
called.
likely,
Yeah.
And then with tablet-based areas, this die shrink is really going to do it.
Well,
with
I'm
Atom.
not
Yeah.
exactly sure. Like like a week ago, I would have agreed. Yes, Windows 9 will definitely not have the desktop.
Most likely. I'm going to say most likely.
But rumors that the next version of whatever RT is, it's not going to be Windows RT. It'll be called something, most likely
Yeah.
something else entirely. They might drop the Windows brand because it was too confusing
Yeah.
for people. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Confusing hardware brands. Who would have guessed?
So-
Well, yeah, but I mean, when people bought a Windows 8, I mean, we've
They-
actually had this problem in the store
Yeah.
where even like you see Windows 8, and you see on the pictures of the tablet, it looks the same.
Yeah.
So if you don't read the small print, you don't know what you think you're getting.
Exactly, but I mean, like
You
you
know
can split
you
it
want
off into two OSs that have two very different names, but
Right.
both don't have a desktop and both are that Metro interface. It's like, isn't that more confusing? It's like, how is this different if your every app is
Right.
a Windows 8 style app?
They need to figure something out because what they're and again, this goes
The
back to them
difference
having
can't
their
just-
hands in both pots. Is that they don't know what's going to dominate the market in the long run.
The difference can't come down to just being ARM.
Yeah.
But that's
shouldn't.
what
It
it.
shouldn't be
What's
that.
what it.
That's not helpful for
Apparently, it
them.
has to be though. That's the thing is that if you have two completely different hardware architectures, you kind of have to have two different operating systems, and you can't just make everything work on both.
Yeah.
At least Windows can't. Microsoft can't.
Right.
I mean, there's conceivably you could come up with some solution, but it wouldn't work well for one or other platform. You could either decide that you're going to emulate all ARM stuff on x86, you're going to emulate all x86 stuff on ARM. Either way you do it,
which
one of the
doesn't
two
have
platforms
the
is gonna-
power yet. Like it
Well,
could.
and the thing is, your
later.
low power Atom chips, at least going forward, they can see that they're going to be equivalent in terms of. There's no reason ARM or x86 should be faster than the other. It's just where it is right now.
Right.
So long term, they're thinking, let's. They needed to do something. They saw the death of the PC coming, and essentially for the widespread market, laptops and desktops are not going to be the majority of the market.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Right.
a niche market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that now. Microsoft surely knew that 2 or 3 years ago, and so they started working on something. They were like, we got to get something out, which is why Windows 8 seems so schizophrenic and bizarre, is because they had to get something started so developers can start making stuff for their new interface, for ARM at all.
Right.
And so they can get some sort of install base going so that when, people really do stop selling or buying PCs, that they can actually
You can have something on the market.
they can have something on the market.
Take something home.
Speaking of not buying PCs anymore and everything going to tablets, the Razer Edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
The gaming.
the gaming
tablet.
handheld gaming tablet.
Yeah.
Now, disclaimer.
Yeah.
None of us have touched it or used it or even seen it in person.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
However,
We are experts.
we are experts, and I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. I think it's certainly an engineering
Marvel.
marvel. Yeah, the
it
fact that
is.
they were able to get what they did into the size and format that they did and make it work the way it does.
It works perfectly well when you have 1 to 2 hours of battery life. That's
Right.
the big
Well,
caveat.
yeah. That's that as far as like design wise, because there's another big caveat.
Yeah.
Because
And
it's like 45 minutes if you're doing gaming without the dock.
Yeah.
Right. And then
No,
once you-
they're pushing
Well-
about an hour. Honestly, they are.
Okay,
pushing
With
it.
the,
About
there's
an hour,
the battery,
but then you
or
get the controller dock,
thing
and that adds like an
comes,
extra
it has a battery
hour
pack
or
in,
so.
which is a great design, by the way. Everything about this thing is very well designed.
Yeah. The only
Um,
problem is that it's all expensive.
It's
Oh.
exactly. It's like I think it starts at $1,000.
right.
If you
and
want,
that's for the base model.
that's super basic. And if you want like all the except the controller thing is like another 300.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
Yes.
So I think the consensus is generally speaking that if you have the money to buy one and you're not going to regret not having $1,500 in your bank account,
It is
you
the
will
best
not
thing
regret
to do,
having
yeah.
the Razer,
Yeah.
the Razer Edge. It's great.
yeah. If you want one device that can pretty much.
And that's the other thing,
Whatever,
because
yeah.
it's a PC.
Yeah.
It's an i5
Yep.
with
it's an ultra low voltage i5,
yeah.
and there's an ultra
like
low
8 gigs
for-
of RAM and everything. It's a full
Full-fledged
fully
PC.
and it's almost as good as most gaming PCs that you might. Well, the graphics are a little.
a little lower, but you
A
can
little
run
lower.
basically every modern game at medium settings. And
Thank you,
it's-
consoles.
Yes, thank you consoles.
For being the same for the last like 10 years.
And at 720p graphics, but that's
Right.
the screen resolution, so that's what you will run it at.
Which some people have knocked the screen res, but that's why they did it.
That's
Is
why they
because
did
they can only
but
drive
you
so
can
many
always
pixels.
push it to the TV.
And then you start getting issues if you do 1080p.
Yeah,
Right.
of course.
Because it's just not getting an i5 and really powerful graphics in there would have destroyed battery life and destroyed
There is a pretty solid graphics chip in there. It's
Yeah.
the NVIDIA 640 LE. It's a very, very good mobile
Very
part.
solid, yeah.
Draws very little power, and once again, it was designed to play all modern games at low to medium-ish settings at 720p and play it very reliably. It'll look better than an Xbox 360. It'll look better than a PS3.
Right.
Yeah, and you mean when you push it to the TV, you could always push it at 720.
Exactly.
Which is I think I mean that's depending on the game you might have to do a little fiddling, but this is a PC we're talking about,
Yeah.
so we shouldn't be too surprised by that.
Considering it's this big.
I know, and
Yeah,
that's
coming
the
from
that's the
something-
thing that I think because people talk about
It's
how
as fat as like my entire.
right, and people talk
computer,
about how
so-
big it is, and that's another thing that sometimes
It's because
people
it's a
knock
tablet.
It for.
It's
Exact-
big for a tablet.
It's big for a tablet, but for a gaming
It's a 10
laptop,
inch. It's a 10-inch laptop.
right?
That just doesn't.
And
open
even
up.
just getting rid of the keyboard, I think, does a lot to make it more portable.
Yeah.
Because and again, haven't actually used it.
Yeah.
Although I
Um,
don't know how portable the controller dock is. Like, does it?
From what I've heard, people
condense
no, it
down?
doesn't. It
It
doesn't.
doesn't,
It's just,
okay.
but it just adds a couple little things. So, but it's still pretty easy to just slide into your bag or take with you.
I mean, if you're the type of person who buys this thing, you live the lifestyle.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you do. That's
Right.
what you want to be doing.
Yeah,
You'll be fine.
you find yourself
Yeah,
in
I-
you find yourself in swanky cafes with nothing to do for hours at a time. So you need to pull out your gaming laptop
for,
and catch
like,
up on
2 hours at
Dishonored.
a time.
Right, because then you have a meeting later where you're going to make
batteries.
$1,000 millions of dollars worth of deals. I don't know how these people live. I can't afford one, so that's I don't think any of us are in the
You
market
just need
for.
to
you
review
purchase
one.
one for the
Razor, you send us
Razor,
one.
yes, please. Razor, send us one. We'll review it. We will praise it up and down.
Yes.
But I mean, the other thing is, I mean, yeah, I mean, if I had that kind of money to just not care about,
Yeah.
maybe I would get one.
It'd be
But
one of the cool
Can you
newest hottest
can you
things.
purchase it for the store?
I don't think anyone will buy it.
No, probably not.
I don't think so.
No,
I mean,
okay.
if someone wanted one, we could make that happen. But I don't think we're gonna carry one just because.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
You can build such a nice gaming desktop for that
Yeah.
amount of money. Like, and that's what
Oh, I
you
mean,
should.
you would forget playing everything on medium to low. For that kind of money on a
$1,500
desktop,
Right.
desktop.
you're talking play everything on high,
Yes.
including
Ultra
Battlefield 4
settings.
when it comes out. You
Yeah.
know, you're not hurting for anything if you drop
yeah.
that much cash on a desktop. Which is the other thing about this is that the other reason why none of us have it or have used it is
My priorities
because
lie there first.
we can all build these kinds of things
Yeah.
and
Right.
yeah, value for money.
Yeah.
We don't need to be carrying it around with us. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've never once felt, man, I really wish I was playing Skyrim right now.
I know, but see, and maybe if you could, you would though.
Who
If
knows?
you were just like after the camera shut down, if you just sat back and were like Skyrim,
Go.
you know, because the other thing is that Windows 8 with an SSD, I mean that thing's just on
Yeah.
like right
Right.
away.
Yeah.
You could be playing Skyrim within like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Hey, we should say that it is also a fully fledged Windows 8.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Tablet.
yeah, it's a fully fledged Windows 8 tablet. It's like you
with
know,
a bad touchscreen.
like you just need it to start Skyrim. That's all. You need to hit the tile that says Skyrim, and then you're
Right.
done.
Then you're good.
I mean, and that's the other thing is because if you're in the market for a Windows 8 tablet,
It's
you're,
one of the best ones,
Yeah,
too.
I mean, there's like the Surface Pro, and then there's this,
Yeah.
and it's only like $500 more.
And you
Not
go
even.
on-
I mean, it starts at the same price as the 128 gig
Yeah.
Surface Pro.
Surface Pro, yeah.
So if
Right.
you're in that market, you're like, I want a Windows 8
It is the best
x86
thing.
You want the
tablet with an
highest
i5.
end Windows 8 tablet.
There you go. Those are like your two options, really.
Right.
So in that context, it makes a lot more sense at that price point. But hopefully, down the road, someone not Razer, because I know Razer, at least in the system market, is very high end. Their Razer Blade is like $2,000. Again, it's premium stuff.
Premium.
Hopefully, other companies will see the Razer Blade and think maybe we can do this with a low power i3 or maybe even an Atom chip.
Yeah.
Get
Just
some
enough
sort of-
CPU
just enough
horsepower. That's the
yeah,
thing.
the
You don't-
graphics horsepower is really key for gaming. So
Yeah.
if they can keep that 640 LE and hit maybe a sub $1,000 price point, I could see them moving a lot of these units because it's again it's a multi-purpose Windows PC and it can play games.
Haswell will help with this when it
Yeah,
drops.
yeah, that's a
either
big thing.
Start of next year. I mean, optimistically, it could launch as soon as the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not.
SSDs are only getting cheaper.
Yep, SSDs are getting cheaper. But yeah, lower power requirements on the processor side will be really helpful for idle states.
Yes.
Lowering their wattage draw during gameplay will be really, really helpful. And that's what Haswell should help bring to the table, and definitely Skylake. That's their next one for 2015.
Yeah.
And they're shrinking down to a 14 nanometer process. That's going to be killer. They're hoping
Yeah.
anywhere from a 25 to 35% drop in power across during like load times.
Right.
Which is really intense if they nail that. And Intel has usually nailed a lot of their claims. So
Yeah,
it's
well,
something
and
to
we'll
believe.
see. I'm always worried when you talk about these process drops because we're getting close to not being able to drop it much farther.
Yep.
I'm worried about yields because I'm thinking
Yeah.
when Skylake comes out, they're going to have serious yield problems. So they're going to have a lot of Pentiums they're going to be needing to sell, and not a whole lot of i5s and i3s.
That's why
Or
Intel's
their-
building all they want to leave Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company because they have a lot of yield problems. They're pretty much the best in the business, but there's still yield
Well,
problems.
everyone does.
Yeah.
Every time we shrink, we see
Yeah.
more yield problems.
So,
But that's kind of we're getting off topic
getting
here.
off topic.
We're getting way off
So,
topic.
Yeah, so that's all for this week. You can find us online at shopsws.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Google+. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a very good weekend.
Thanks for watching.
thanks for watching.
All right.